And even romance anime has gotten Crim into trouble if you ever want to share that story. So,
I mean, let me tell you, I got a great story about that.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Niisan podcast, where we talk about your favorite thing, anime. And
I kind of like anime.
Yeah, anime seems all right, I guess. It's okay. Anyways, I'm one of your hosts, Xell and Crim, and with me we have Crim.
Hi, howdy. It's me, Crim, also known as the Asian Avenger. How y'all doing? And
today marks episode 12, and we're at the end of our first season.
Yeah.
If we were in anime, this would be the end of the first season.
Yeah. Which, by the way, thank you for following us through a whole season. This has been awesome. We're very much so close to hitting some download and listener milestones. So I'm just very honored to be here and a part of this, and allowed to really help reform Xell's anime taste. So
reform. I don't know about that one. I feel like the reformation should be happening from the other side, but we'll get into that another time.
It's reforming. The other side is reforming you and your taste. Yeah,
no,
so it is.
No. Crim, let's be clear. My taste up here, excellence, tea drinking with the pinky up. Your anime taste, rock bottom, like the bottom of a chum bucket.
Let's meet in the middle. How about we call it bikini bottom? Oh, God.
I got the secret sauce to the Krabby Patty. You're out there with plankton in the chum bucket, okay? So, just to be clear.
Thank you for elaborating for everyone at home. Those were SpongeBob and a chain of SpongeBob references. So let's go with that.
Just had to nail down that metaphor really quick.
I got you.
Anyways, I've been very excited. I'm so happy about all the people who have been commenting on our YouTube videos and downloading our stuff on the various podcast platforms. And we just want to say thank you again to all those people. Please keep sharing the word. And I think we have some exciting things coming up in the future. So I hope you will join us for that journey. So, anyways,
I'm chuckling because I can't spill the beans, and I know. I
know. We have to hold ourselves. We have to, as they say, a himitsu, a secret. So we just got to keep it on the DL, and
okay.
Yeah, so it'll be here soon, guys. It'll be here soon. So, anyways, today's episode is going to be about anime originals because, like we said, it's the end of the season, and not just for our theoretical anime show, but also for shows like Vivy. Vivy just recently came out with their last episode, and my God, I love that show so much. And we'll do our full kind of season ramp up next week, where we'll go through and talk about the whole season. And so I'm not going to talk too much about the Vivy stuff, just that I love it and I was really happy. And the thing is, with anime originals, I think they're kind of cursed and blessed, right? Because anime originals, when I think of some of the anime originals that have happened in the past, I think of stuff like Darling in the Franxx, right? Like the classic example of where anime originals seem to go wrong.
Watch where you tread. Just keep going.
You know how we just talked about anime taste, Crim? Come on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Look. Okay. I just gotta say. If you just go and watch the show and it ends after 02 becomes Stone, you're good. Just don't watch anymore. Don't watch anymore. Stop after episode 17.
Under that metric, there are so many good anime originals, because anime originals are sort of like these type of shows that seem to have really good premises, and it keeps you drawn along, and then at the end it just rips it all away, and that's what we left with. And Darling in the Franxx is a great example of that. All Noah Zero is another great example of that. What is it? Guilty Crown, another show that people were really excited about when it first came out. And the thing I think I love most about anime originals is that you literally can't be spoiled. There's actually no possibility that you can be spoiled. There's no manga reader sitting at home being like,
you don't get the actually crowd.
Yeah, exactly. And we're all just in it together and experiencing it all at once. And I think that's one of my favorite things because, it's so fun to go into discussion threads week after week with shows like Darling in the Franxx and like being like, oh, what's gonna happen next? We literally cannot know, and so that's some of my favorite discussions in these shows. And so Vivi was a show that I thought was great, and so yeah, today we're gonna talk about more anime originals, but not just like the worst or the best, because I think when we talk about the worst, like okay, we talk about them, right? Like Darling and Franxx, whatever, and then
It's
also
not
the
the
best,
worst.
because some of
Not
the
the
best anime of all time are originals. Wait, what are you whispering over there?
Darling the Franxx is not the worst. Come on, man. Don't be so harsh. Don't look. I hated it. I hated the ending too. Okay,
Biggest disappointments. Okay, let's put it that way. Not the worst. X-Arm exists. The Promised Neverland season 2 exists. Fine, not one of the worst anime of all time, but maybe possibly one of the biggest disappointments. Right? Like I think that's not crazy to say.
I know. Yeah, it pains me to agree because I love 0-2 and most of the show, but yeah, very disappointing.
Disappointing. And like anime originals sort of set you up for that, right? Because again, you kind of hype it up week after week, and then it sometimes just falls through. But like I was saying, the converse can also be true. Converse. Is it converse? Converse. Anyways,
Flippity,
some of the best
floppity.
shows. Yeah, some of the best shows of all time are anime originals, right? Like Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo, Madoka Magica,
Fully Cooley,
and
Sorry, what?
Cooley. Yeah. I was saying
What's that last part?
Madoka Magica Screecrim. And so Madoka Magica.
Sorry, it must be the earwax in my ear. Okay, all right.
I mean, Madoka Magic's got like a full long name. I forgot. It's like Puella something Madoka Magica Screecrim, and so something like that. So and definitely one of the better animes out there. I think a lot of people would agree. So yeah. So this episode, we compiled a list of some of our favorite anime originals that aren't the top. And actually, this list was super hard because we put down some kind of like arbitrary like conditions to making this list. Pretty arbitrary, you'll find it. So we were saying that we wanted to find shows that we thought were underrated. So literally, they had to be rated under an 8 and.
It was and. I treated it as and, by the way.
And a show that was less popular than the top 400 in MyAnimeList. 400 was not a totally random choice because
it's so weird.
Happened to coincide with one of my choices that I think is just really good and deserves another mention. So, anyways, those were our metrics. Again, less than
our
8.
metrics. Yeah.
And or our metrics and or less popular than the top 400.
Yeah.
So
no, like this, very much so true though, right? Like I mean, like this, everything you just said minus the Madoka Magic thing. So like if you ignore the Madoka Magic thing, then you get a majority of like these original animes that are just the best of the best. There is oddly just. If they're original, they're just either like trend-setting, amazing powerhouses of anime, or the last 4 or 5 episodes of Darling in the Franxx. So I'm also excited for this because I really had to dig for some stuff that like was really deep, and I had kind of forgotten how much I enjoyed. So I will admit that. We try to go for original here, and I guess in a way I did kind of cheat. My number 5 on this list did have a manga. Whether that helps it out by much.
It's okay. I cheated on one of my things too. So
then great. We're already starting it off with bangers. But like I'm excited because you had mentioned we're gonna do the wrap up. So I got some words for Vivi and its ending, and we will continue that next week. So, but for right now, I'm so excited to go over these lists because this really did help. We dug. We really, if you avoid, this is like, if you wanted to, this is the hipster episode of anime, right? Like this is like, oh, you haven't heard of this? Okay. So, and I'm not drinking wine as I say this and swirling it around the glass for the listeners at home, but you would think I am because of like how deep we had to go for some of this.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool too, because like I passed by some anime that I was like, man, I know people love this anime, but I just haven't watched it. And so like I'm just going to quickly list off a couple that won't be at least on my list that I was like, oh, I know people love these shows, like Flip Flappers, Terror and Resonance, Shirobako. Like some of these shows are ones that like a lot of people have said are kind of like underwatched and underappreciated. And I was like, man, I really got to go back at some point and watch these shows because I've heard such good things about them. So, anyways.
So, like,
You
what do we
wanna kick us
start?
off?
Yeah. Okay. I'll start us off. All right. Let's lead us. I'll lead us into this, and please don't close out of the episode. Okay. Like, I know this isn't a universally revered or loved anime, and this is on here because this is the one that has a manga. And I enjoyed it more so for nostalgic reasons. I feel like this is the one that I can watch, but I wouldn't say I'd recommend. But I do think it is enjoyable. It is enjoyable.
Man, these are a lot of qualifying statements.
Yeah. If you just add these 9,000 stipulations to this. And okay, it was on Toonami growing up. It's G Gundam. Rated at a 7.56. on MyAnimeList, and popularity, it's ranked 2,191.
Oh, G Gundam. Shining Finger. I remember that. Dude, okay. I actually, as a kid, loved this show. So I just want to let you know that I was expecting something more like on the level of like hentai, but this is like, this show is fun.
I don't know what title. I don't even know what hentai is, so don't be weird. Okay. I don't know what you're talking about, dude. I was just.
It's when a hen wears a tie.
Okay. It feels almost like a specific company would have made a shirt like that, but I don't know what it is. So anyways, so G Gundam was one that I really enjoyed as a kid, and I felt like for the most part it was fun. It was like Gundam, but like kind of like, I know some of us don't like when you bring up the Star Trek movies, right? Like everyone's like, Star Trek, TSG, all Next Generation, all of that, right? Those are classics. But then you bring up the J.J. Abrams ones, right? I feel like G Gundam feels like the J.J. Abrams run of Gundam compared to the original stuff, right? It's not as deep, and it's kind of like really, really dumb, and it's really just like one gigantic battle anime, right?
Yeah.
But like it essentially is Rock'em Sock'em robots. But there were some issues, like if you ignore, I have some very deep-seated issues in like potential just like moral issues. Maybe even some of the robots might even lean into some stereotypes and are very problematic. But if you ignore that part of it, the show was very good at building up showmanship between the pilots and their Gundams, the battles and all that stuff. But the Gundam designs were some of them were really cool, and some were like, ooh, that will not age well. So the thing here is I'm going to talk about specifically one that it burnt into my mind because it was just so bad, and I can't believe they made it that way. It was on the levels of Michael Bay's Transformers 2, the twin robots. It's the robot that represented Mexico, and it was like a sombrero wearing cactus robot. And I'm just like, damn, man, like that is bad. But if you ignore that part, though, everything else about the show, I think the main character is really cool, and the fights were a lot of fun. I think it was kind of just pretty much hated on pretty much rejected by anybody that loved any of the other Gundam stuff and didn't grow up with this. This is why I don't think I can recommend this to this day, which is funny because like this is number 5 on my list. But it's just got a special. Yeah. By the way, I'm trying to sell this.
Name is called Tequila Gundam.
It's so much worse. I feel like if you don't look it up, it's not as bad, right? But then every time you look up something, the show gets much more problematic and very, very, very bad. You know what? I don't know if I can even defend it anymore. Like I'm just like,
Yo Mexico Tequila Gundam.
Okay, you know what? My number 5 has been redacted. I kind of still like. If you like the main character, you'll like the main character, right? Like there's cool moves, Shining Finger, like all of that. Like it built up very good showmanship. It was in the vein of like how I would enjoy the Yu-Gi-Oh shows. Other than that, that's as much as I could say about it. And every second that passes, the show just ages even more poorly. So Why don't you just take us into your number 5?
Okay. So actually, give me 1 second here because I need to find the specific thing.
Okay. So like wait, are we talking about the numbers on it?
No, I was just curious at Sorry, I just wanted to check something. Okay, no, this actually changes one of mine too. So I just wanted to I redacted one of mine as well to change it to something else. So anyways, that's a G Gundam. I thought, like you said, like it doesn't like have the hallmark Gundam goodness in some ways. Like a lot of people love Gundam for its political side of things, like showcasing war.
Politically incorrect, but yeah, like I mean, you're like,
and yeah, this one was just kind of like good dumb fun. At least the way I remember it as a kid, I was just like, I just liked that they didn't have like the traditional like cockpits and where every Gundam pilot somehow controls everything with 2 levers like this. And like
it felt very Pacific Rimmy. Right? Like
yeah.
It felt like in that vein, and it definitely felt like a Michael Bay. If Michael Bay did anime, it would be this.
Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I thought G Gundam was a pretty good show, but maybe Tequila Gundam might be crosses some lines here. Okay, I'll get to my number 5 then. My number 5 is rated 7.88 on MyAnimeList, and its popularity is number 674. So kind of just outside the rating scale. And this one's called Id Invaded. And Id Invaded is a show about
the human.
Basically, it's like Minority Report meets The Matrix, where essentially this guy who used to be a cop commits a crime, and therefore he's used as this experiment where they go and they like enter the minds of criminals to discover what crime that they had committed and to like reverse engineer like what is going to happen. And it's super cool because like I like the combination. Like I like Minority Report, I like The Matrix, and so all these things. Oh, it's got a little Inception in there too, because like when you're in the mind of a criminal, like crazy things can happen. And it was a show that like surprised me, and I feel like it's kind of underappreciated because it came out during a season of anime that wasn't even particularly that good, and I wonder why It Invaded didn't get talked about more. But it's an anime original, and it's got some more mature themes, which is, you know, something that me and Crim have talked about as being like, hey, that's like something that we want kind of more of. And the story itself was like pretty good, and it wasn't a show that would like necessarily wow everybody who watched it, but I love the themes, and the animation and style was also pretty cool, and I thought it was definitely worth watching. So It Invaded was one of the ones that I thought was like worth putting on, and is my numero 5.
Definitely one that I have not heard of, but I figured, but it sounds like something I would enjoy, right? Like a sci-fi kind of, has sci-fi elements on top of that, you know, it has some pretty cool detective work there. So sounds pretty rad. But okay. So that one, would you still say that that's a show you could watch?
I think It Invaded is for sure. I mean, it's pretty recent. I think It Invaded, let's see, when did it exactly come out here? I think It Invaded,
I mean, that's got to be like
2020. So it was very
like
recent.
A year ago.
Mm-hmm. So this one's super recent, and yeah, so it's good. People should watch it.
Well,
I actually have a lot of recent ones, TBH.
I dug pretty deep, and maybe that's why a lot of mine are farther out on the popularity numbers.
Gotcha.
So, okay, going into our number 4, this one you may remember also growing up, and you would see it on Adult Swim. There's a good amount, because at the era of anime this came out in, there wasn't really a lot of anime that made it overseas, right, that you could watch and could enjoy. But this was one of them. And this one is one that I feel like is severely underrated and actually isn't problematic in other ways like G Gundam, is Witch Hunter Robin.
Oh,
so Witch Hunter Robin
this one
on MyAnimeList is coming in at a 7.27 with a popularity ranking of 1540. So this is one that it essentially witches kind of like or like they're super powered, right? In this world, witches or things that are deemed witches are essentially, telekinetic, ESP, mind control, all of that, right? And so there is, a hunter that hunts witches. Her name's Robin. You figured it out. Congratulations. You did it. You did it. You're all of our brain cells collectively just went overtime. And it's really kind of like my first look into more horror-esque designs, vibes, and storytelling for anime. And I actually really could. The animation, I think it's still watchable, it's still passable, and something I could still recommend. Definitely, because the last episode we just did, we talked about horror animes and all of that in the horror space, right? And this does a good job of kind of exploring that for its time, because this aired in 2002. And this was a solid show. It was done by it's just absolutely amazing in the fight scenes. They did a good job. They made they made Robin, her outfit was like this badass long trench coat. And the scenery within the anime, the world that they built in here is awesome. Every character though kind of speaks like they're really dry and not as animated as you're used to in typical anime, some kind of Natsu heel clicking, jumping around, right? Blowing up like witches. We're not doing that. It's very, very monotone, dry, but dark. And especially for its time. So this is something that you may not have seen, or maybe you watched in passing while you were flipping through channels, and you probably saw it because it was on Adult Swim or Toonami. It was one of the two. But I think it was Adult Swim or something, because it was a late night show that I would watch, and I that's why I remember loving it so much. And yeah, this is one of those ones that I can still recommend, and this is definitely a solid number 4 for me. And I feel like it's definitely slipped super far back into people's minds, but this is definitely one that can still hold up.
Yeah, that's crazy that you said that this was on Adult Swim, because I don't actually remember this one at all. So that's crazy. And I'm looking at the title page of it, and the art style is very cool. It kind of gives me Castlevania vibes a little bit, with that long trench coat and sort of the whole theme, I guess, of I don't know, just ancient things, I guess. And so it looks very dark, and this is cool. I've never heard of this one.
Yeah, it's so if you're into it, it's just craft hunters hunting witches. Simple as that, without spoiling anything. Definitely a strong recommendation. What's your number 4 though?
All right, my number 4. By the way, I had to redact my redacted thing and do so I'm going back to what my original thing was.
Okay. So your original got bumped up.
Yeah, kind of, for no good reason. But this one is a pretty decent show as well. I think both Inadvated and this one are both pretty good. And they're both recent. This one also was in the last year that I thought was quite good. There's a show called Deca-Dence. It was rated 7.44. And overall, the popularity is 723. So, again, a little bit outside our popularity thing. And
it's
Deca-Dence
is
Deca
dash, right? Dense or something like
that, right?
Yeah,
slash dense.
Yeah.
And this show is a sci-fi thing where basically the idea is that humanity is way different than it used to be. They're on the brink of extinction, essentially. However, they're being basically controlled by an extra set of sort of a computerized race who basically convert their consciousness into human bodies, and they fight off these life forms called Gadolls. And it's interesting. This is a good old fashioned sci-fi show, and it's actually probably some of the best animation that no one ever talked about. And the show has a really, really good set of protagonists. You follow the story of oh my god, I forgot her name. Natsume.
The blonde girl, right?
Yeah, the blonde girl, and she's this kind of upbeat girl who's lost an arm, and she's sort of making her way to want to become one of the fighters who defend the giant fortress that all these humans live in, called Deca-Dence. And she meets this guy named Kaburagi, and he's got a dark, mysterious past. And basically, the show is about her learning sort of the state of the world and what's really happening. And Kaburagi is a guy who seems like he may know more about the world than he lets on, and that's kind of the general mystery of it. And I thought the show was super super dope.
I remember Kaburagi when I was watching, because this is a recent one. This came out, I think, like 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. I don't remember. But yeah, like I watched it, and Kaburagi reminded me of the villain, one with the scar on his face from One Punch Man, the one that like completely gets bodied instantly.
Garo, yeah.
Yeah, not One Punch Man. Sorry, Mob Psycho. Mob Psycho.
Oh, JK, not Garo.
Yeah, not Garo. No, Mob Psycho. Yeah, like this show, I think. So for me, this was one of the ones where I feel like, did you say this was ranked at a 7.44, right? Or something like that? When I was watching this, I felt like the world that they built was like really cool, but a lot of the design was kind of like for some of the robots stuff didn't look that cool. And I felt like there's something weird about it's not the animation, it was the art style. You know what I mean? Like the art style of like, it kind of felt a little closer to like the Ruby style of art. Like,
interesting.
Cause
I actually thought like style wise, it reminded me most of like Studio Trigger, which is something that I like. So it's definitely not like I don't want to spoil too much, but there's like a set of the humans look very like what you would expect from like anime humans, but the other side of things, the digitized race that I kind of talked about, they're kind of wackier looking. It's almost like I don't know, kind of like Neopets, but with like more mecha flavor.
There was literally a
weird
Vision.
Looking.
There was a Vision ripoff. Like there was a dude that I was like, is that the Vision? Like, except instead of red, you know what I mean? He's like, I think he's like purple or blue or something like that. No. So yeah, like I don't know. Like for me, this show, I didn't actually sit all the way through it because I did feel like it was kind of slow. And on top of that, for that and like I didn't like the art style. The animation was good, but the style, just like something about the humans looked weird to me.
Really? That's actually really interesting because I thought the human characters looked great. I thought if anything, the thing that would upset people on the way they looked would have been like the other race. So that's interesting to me.
The others were like all the robotics and stuff like that. I thought looked fine. Like they looked weird. They looked sci-fi. Some of them looked okay. I remember like some of that just looked like kind of like funny, but it was okay. The issue that I had was just like looking at some of the humans. It just felt like something about the animation or like the style, the models that they use for like the head and stuff like that. It looks so close to kind of like less 3D versions of Ruby design of like human characters. And I think that's what kind of threw me off.
Huh.
So
I personally disagree a lot, and I thought the human characters looked awesome, and like I thought they looked really. So I guess your mileage may vary on this one.
Well, you didn't think they looked blocky? Disagree? Like they looked blocky.
No, I thought they looked really good.
Really?
In general, the show looks really, really good. So that's surprising. I think the thing that if I was to say why it's probably on the lower rating side is that it kind of doesn't build up to, because it's a pretty short anime. It's a 12 episode series, and it doesn't quite build up to the high heights that you kind of want out of anime, because anime is all about high heights, right? Because like the shows are so over the top and you can get some like bombastic feelings through anime, and this show is one of those ones that's more like the story is very solidly created. Everything about it is just solid, but I felt like when I watched it, I didn't think it was that slow, considering it's a 12 episode anime and it feels like every episode something happens. But they wrap it up clean in 12 episodes. And
I mean, I didn't see the ending, so I actually don't. I just thought
mostly it was just like it. It felt like you were watching something that you've kind of seen before. So if you've seen a lot of sci-fi, you might feel like, again, this doesn't kind of like do anything particularly that new. But I think what it did do was that it was just a very solid show. And maybe it wasn't like the highest of highs, but I do think that the show is definitely worth watching. So, and I think the animation is beautiful. Some of the flying sequences, because like the warriors have these like anti-gravity wells that they put on, and they do some crazy mid-air combat with like really dope looking flips, and I think this show is beautiful. So that's my number 4.
Okay. And now, so then that leaves us now to moving into our number 3 on this list. This one, you can argue if this is anime. I would say yes, it is. It's just the art style is different. As I just talked about how I didn't like the other anime that you had just mentioned due to the weird art style. Mine is actually Agretsuko.
Oh, okay.
So it's rated at a 7.68, and its ranking in popularity is 1250. Now, this is just like kind of it's everything that I love, right? It has random parts of like metal music, death metal, all that stuff, and the aggression, like the angry humor of like the main character. It's charming, and it's just a cute show. Even when they're angry, every character is adorable, right? And it's just about, essentially it's an office job. It's Office Space done anime. and I am a fan of it just because of the humor of that and like the charms that it has. I wouldn't say it's deep story-wise. It's like there is no story. As I said, it's somehow found a way to have less story than Office Space did at the movie. And so other than that, though, it's really just enjoyable watching the main character, Agretsuko, like just go out, kick back, and then just like all of a sudden get really pissed about some stuff and just like let loose. And it was oddly just relaxing watching the show, and it was enjoyable and it was fun. There's just something so simple about it and so sweet. And the art style, you may notice, because it's the same art style as a lot of Sanrio characters, because it's, I believe, attached
to people.
Yeah, like to the Sanrio stuff. So if you're familiar with Hello Kitty, Batsmaru, all of that, that's pretty much where the art style comes from. And
that's
so
my
if you're
boy,
into
by
that,
the way, Bad Batsmaru.
Yep, exactly. I used to have like a little diary of with bats. I never used it, but like, still cool to have one. And yeah, like, so that show is a fun one if you're looking for some kind of lighthearted slice of life kind of comedy.
Yeah, and I think people who, like, if you've had an office job, like, it'll hit close to home a couple times, like the type of conversations you have, the kind of annoyances that you'll have, because I think a lot of us go through that, where you're forced to go to work and you're like, I hate everyone and I need this job for money, so here I am tolerating all of it. And then you go home and like, I know I go home and I'm just like just listening to screamo music, and sometimes you just need that to burn off some stress. So
yeah, it's such a simple
awesome.
but yet an anime where you can just kind of connect to it, for like those that have had the desk job. So yeah.
So dope. Okay, so that was your number 3?
3, yes.
Okay. All right. My number 3 is edging on cheating a little bit, because technically it's still airing. That was never part of the thing, so it's not cheating. You know what? It's totally fine. It checks out. It's lawyered and everything. Lawyer approved.
All
yeah.
right.
Okay.
All right.
So it is Zombieland Saga. Zombieland Saga is an anime original, and it's rated 7.52 on MyAnimeList, and the popularity is 418. So just outside the 400.
Weird.
Totally not weird how it's like just outside. And totally, the number 400 was not random at all. 400 is just like, it's just a good number.
Yeah,
good round number, divisible by 2 and 5 and 10 and 4. So it's
okay,
like
all right,
such
there
a
it is.
Good number, yeah. So, anyways, Zombieland Saga is a show I think that everybody should watch. I think this show is amazing because it takes a concept that I'm not super into. Like, I don't really like idol anime all that much, and it doesn't really appeal to me. However, Zombieland Saga, from the very first episode that you watch, you get it, and you're hooked, and you are living this insane life where this girl becomes a zombie idol, and the whole group they're full of just great characters. The voice acting in the show is amazing. The manager of the idol group is Mamoru Miyano. If you like some of his other voice acting roles, you're gonna love this one, because he gets to go nuts in the show, and he does all sorts of weird things. There's like a famous clip where he's impersonating a mudfish for a singing competition, and it's like, what are you doing, man? Why is this even the show? The show's crazy and nuts and weird, but at the same time, Zombieland Saga has such a heartfelt the show has a lot of heart, and through these sort of weird tales and weird hijinks that the girls get into, you come away with it feeling like, oh yeah, I really like these people and I want them to succeed, and I like how hard they work for the things that they have, and so yeah, I think the show is great, and yeah, the current season has the second season of Zombieland Saga, and we have, at the time of filming, it hasn't ended, so I'm curious how it'll end, and but I think more people should watch this show. So Zombieland Saga.
It's so weird to me, like when you take that, I enjoy idol animes in dosages, right? I can handle only so much because it gets a little too wild for me. But then I also love horror stuff, right? So you put those together, you would think I'd love this, but I've never actually seen it. And I keep wanting to start it, but then everything else jumps in front of me and like looks more interesting. But it's like two things that I should like, but I don't know how I haven't seen it yet. And I got to get on it because it just seems like something I would absolutely love once I start it.
Literally the first episode will hook you in right away, because like in the first 10 minutes it's like one of the most memorable scenes I think ever. And so I cannot hype this first, like the first 2 episodes were just back to back like 10 out of 10s for me, and that's like what drew me into the show. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and now I'm a fan. And what's even more interesting about Zombieland Saga too is like, yeah, sure, it's an anime original and whatever, but the voice actors actually do performances, and you can watch their concerts online where they sing the songs, which is like kind of cool to see like the voice actors do those roles. And so I thought that was like a cool, neat little thing. And
hell yeah.
I still won't get into the gacha if there ever is a gacha.
That's usually the thing. If I end up liking, because I've gotten into I bought so many Love Live gacha stuff. I'm like, oh, this is fun. I played the mobile game that's like kind of like this really like mediocre, like, you know, Flash Revolution or whatever. There's got to be a more recent version, but I love that that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Yeah, like lots of like idol games usually lead to gacha games, and it's a dangerous and very slippery slope. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Well, Crim, if you do get into it, let us know how it is. Again, we thank you for your sacrifice, both in spirit and wallet.
Yeah. More so like just like pray for my wallet. Pour one out for my wallet.
Yeah, you should definitely watch this though, because I think it's great. So
I'll get on that. So, all right. So now we're moving in to what is my number 2. And this is where I wonder if we're going to overlap in these top 2, because these top 2, I was amazed by how low these were in like first off the overall rating, and then of course the popularity rating. I mean, the popularity rating for this one I'm about to name makes a little it's kind of reasonable. I thought it'd be a little bit higher. It's B&A at number 2. And so this one is done by, of course, you know, like Trigger Studio, and it's really just about how what is like beast people and like humans, right? They're at a divide. There's a city that specifically welcomes beast people as a safe haven, right? It's like Anima City, I called it Anime City every time, but yeah, like so this show has so much heart, so much spirit, and so much joy behind every little character, and the main character just like is so darn lovable. She's like, I thought she was like a raccoon. But and then you also like meet her friend, who is like this super popular Instagram model, right? But you know, and without spoiling anything, because the anime is still fairly recent. It came out like last year, and this show has probably one of the best filler episodes of all time, and for me at least, that like not of all time, but it'd be in the top 5, top 10. Top 5. And I really enjoyed this show because of it. Like it's lighthearted fun. It's got a bit of that detective work attached to it. And really it's a simple concept. You can probably figure out what it all ends up with, because city divided, you know, okay, humans aren't allowed, and only beast people are here. And then, you know, there's tons of other things that happen along the way, without spoiling too much. And I will just say that this show is it's one of the shows where I actually don't know how it's this low. I was surprised considering how solid it was. I felt like I enjoyed this way more than like this rating that it's showing me right now at 7.42. And of course its popularity is 648th. I thought this would have been a little higher on both sides of it.
I think so. One is I think Netflix originals like this tend to go kind of by the wayside. There's like a weird curse with Netflix anime where, you know, stuff like Castlevania, BNA, Devilman Crybaby, what other anime, like Netflix OGs, Great Pretenders. Like,
Yep.
there's a lot of good stuff on Netflix, but because it's Netflix only, I wonder if it doesn't quite reach like the core anime audience sometimes, which is weird because I think probably more people have Netflix accounts than they do Crunchyroll accounts. But for some reason, when they're only Netflix only, I don't hear about the show. That's it. I watched a bunch of BNA, but I don't think I finished it for some reason. I generally enjoyed it, and I thought there's a side character, Ogami, who's like this wolf thing, and he's so cool. He's like legit one of the coolest characters. But yeah, I don't remember why I never ended up finishing it, but I feel like I should go back and do that.
You should really finish it. And it closes quite well for an anime. And you know, it's not like it's really setting up too much to where it can't it's not biting off more than it can chew. And I think so that's why it's able to close as well as it did. The show is very much so a good time though. It's not reinventing the wheel, but it's definitely a fun one. So check it out. I highly recommend this one. And if you've got Netflix, just like type in BNA, and that's all it is. It's amazing.
Yeah, I again, this has got trigger goodness all over it. The character designs are great.
Yeah, I really like the characters here. Like Trigger really does a good job with humanoids, but not like I love their design for like non-human stuff.
Yeah, and even like how far they stretch like human silhouettes too, because like I think of like the movie Promare and stuff like that, and they can make big muscular men like enormous, and then little tiny people, and you know they do such creative things with their characters, and I feel like out of a lot of the big anime studios, they have the most varied animation style, and it's no different in BNA, and like they do some really beautiful stuff. I remember some of the sequences being like, oh man, the animation is just so beautiful. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know why I never finished it. I don't know.
And Studio Trigger usually is one of the studios that will like kind of take a shot at some weird concepts and stories and ideas. So that's why I like giving their stuff a shot.
Yeah. They're definitely one of my favorites for doing that. So BNA. Okay. All right. My number 2 is not actually Japanese. It's a Korean short. It's a Korean short called A Day Before Us. It's rated 7.21 on MyAnimeList, and for popularity, it's number 5,925. This show is a set of shorts about 4 like college age kids who fall in love, and it's a very sweet story. This was actually the weirdest thing ever. It's just so weird because I found out about this through a YouTube ad, because it was just playing as a YouTube ad, and I was watching this and I was like, what is this? And so I ended up watching the first episode, and each episode's only like a couple minutes long. They're very short, but they're so sweet and beautiful, and it's got this great like watercolor style to it that's just very endearing. And the animation isn't that great. Like I imagine this is done by not a lot of people, like this is like, but they do a very effective job at storytelling. And it's cute romance, and you follow the story of these four kids. And oh my God, Crim, you of all people cannot.
Sorry, dude, I couldn't hear you. I was just bench pressing. What were you saying?
What? Yeah, you should have put on your Sacramento Kings jersey. Before this episode, Crim was like, should I wear this Sacramento Kings jersey, or should I switch to my UA one? I was like, just do whatever you want, man. Then he changed. What a nerd, am I right?
What a loser. Also,
he put away Chad Crim, sports lover Crim.
Sports lover, hates romance, totally the opposite of every anime recommendation I've ever given on this entire podcast. I love, Horimiya, like all these other things, but whatever.
And even romance anime has gotten Crim into trouble, if you ever want to share that story. So
let me tell you, I got a great story about that. Okay.
Right, you know what, share it. This is a great time for it anyways, while we're on this topic.
We're gonna take a slight detour here. So what happened here is I go to my local manga retailer store, right? And so I'm like, okay, I'm picking up Mieruko-Chan and stuff like that. The most recent issue just like it's supposed to come out in a few weeks, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ask if they'll sell it to me early or whatever. And so they like whatever, they sell it, and I go and grab. I'm like, okay, well, since they're nice enough to hook me up, I'm just gonna buy every issue of Rent a Girlfriend. Right. And so
just casually, rent a girlfriend. That's the one.
Yeah. So I'm like walking right with this stack, right? Like there's like 6 manga, like 6 issues so far, and I'm just holding it in my arm, like hugging it, right? Like I am ready to cry into these, right? And so I'm standing in line and I'm waiting to check out. And the best part about this is, so there's this girl, she's behind me, right? And I don't know if she knows the anime, or anything at all, but it says in huge letters, "Rent a Girlfriend," right? So she kind of like, I kind of look over at her, right? And I notice she's kind of like glaring at me. I'm like, is she about to say something to me? I think she's about to say something to me. But she kind of like looks at me, but then doesn't look at my eyes. I notice she's like looking at what I'm holding. And so here I am just holding 6 issues of Rent a Girlfriend and just getting the dirtiest looks. Like I don't know if she knows what it is, and I'm kind of going through this dilemma. Like it almost looks worse if I go, hold on, I know you're looking at me for what I'm holding, but the title is much worse than it actually is. But then I was like, I think it might actually be worse if I try to tell her that and justify what I'm holding, because then it totally feels like I'm lying and hiding. Like, hold on, this is my friend's box of anime. Hold on, wait. And so the whole time I'm like, oh, do I say anything? No, I'm just gonna look away. And like I can tell from the side of my eyes, like from my peripherals, she's giving me the nastiest look I could possibly get. And I just look away, but then I turn back and she's still kind of just looking at me. And I'm just like, oh man, is this really that creepy, holding all this stack of Rent a Girlfriend? I don't even know.
I'm just thinking, like, is the girl looking at you that way because of Rent a Girlfriend's title, or is she looking at you that way because she knows Rent a Girlfriend is trash?
Yo. You leave. Okay, all right, understandable. It is trashy, but like, come on. It's not even that bad. Come on. So that is all I'm going to say, but like, legitimately, every time I also watch Rent a Girlfriend, or I did watch Rent a Girlfriend, if anyone would see me watching it, the title just usually gets me in trouble. They're like, what are you watching? I'm like, oh, I have to explain this title every time.
Why couldn't it have been just like translated Japanese instead?
Yeah, just give me the Japanese translation. Don't put Rent a Girlfriend on the screen. But yeah, that is neither here nor there. So let's get back to the list.
Yeah. So anyways, A Day Before Us is a actually sweet romance show where the protagonists are all great versus just Mizuhara, just hard carrying the entire show on her back.
And Ruka.
And just Mizuhara.
Damn,
and
Ruka.
so, because Chizuru just hard carries that show across terrible other characters. But A Day Before Us features 4 really great little, it's sweet. It's sweet. So, A Day Before Us.
I've never heard of that. I've never heard that one.
Yeah.
So, like, I do love me some sappy animes. Just don't tell anyone.
The thing that's awesome about it is they're just little shorts. I actually haven't even gone back and seen it, all of them. I think because they've had new ones come out and even a sequel looks like. And but it's just an anime Korean drama and very sweet. That's all. That's really all that it is. The music is great. Like I said, I love the watercolor palette that they chose. And
Okay. I mean, yeah, I'll have to check it out because if they're shorts, that makes it even easier. So,
yeah.
All right.
I think it's all on YouTube as well.
Then I have to do it. I have no reason, Ken. So this means now we're coming into the big one. This is the top one. Now, this is one of the ones that okay, so BNA, sure. It's not as high up as I thought it'd be, but I almost feel like this is criminally underrated. Mm-hmm. For it to be rated at 7.92, 639th in popularity, it's Carol and Tuesday. Another Netflix anime, by the way. This is another Netflix exclusive. So maybe you're right in that, like, it's because it's on Netflix and that platform on its own is why these aren't more popular. But I think this show is great. it's got music. It's like watching the American Idol anime, essentially, right? But you follow, instead of like watching the judges, you're following the main two contestants, and but except it's set in space, so they're going through space, and like the music in the show is cool, and they they have some sweet rivals in there. It's like you get to see like, oh, is our Vocaloids and robotics and auto tuning, is that better than like good old a guitar and like keyboard, right? And I love the dynamics between the two main characters, and I love the people they meet along the way. It's a sweet story, and the very final closing scene was a sweet get together with everyone that you've met throughout the whole show, and they kind of sing this song together, and it just felt like one sweet musical. And like space opera, like space idol, American Idol version of it. So I really did enjoy a lot of the music, and the animation was gorgeous. Like watching them play the instruments, it almost looked real to me. Like seeing, like they would show like fretboards and things like that on the guitar. And of course, that's not even to mention the beautiful vocals, the catchy melodies. There's lots of really good, like if you're into like acoustic pop and that kind of stuff, there's a lot of it here. And I think once again, of course, Crim is going to be like, he likes the music anime. So maybe that's why this falls in line with it. I normally don't like American Idol stuff, but I think it's because it's set in space that somehow makes it better. So yeah. Like, I know that when we had talked about this, you have words. You have words for Carol and Tuesday.
I wanted to love this anime so much because it's beautifully animated. The music is gorgeous. And by the way, the OST for the show goes all over the place. It's like the main two girls have like a very sweet, like soulful acoustic sort of vibe, but then they have EDM, and then they have these guys who sing a bunch of expletives essentially as mermaids, and like they have it all. Like the show is wild, wacky sometimes, but very grounded in the sense of like it felt like the primary question was kind of, who writes music better? A music producer who has all the tool available to him to sonically write the scientific best, catchiest melodies, or just two kids off the street who just really love music, right? And that was kind of like the central theme of the show. They lost me at American Idol. That's the point in which they lost me.
Really?
And I really wanted this. I thought it was just going to be a short little arc because you follow their journey into like how they become big, and they have like a TikTok that goes viral essentially, and like they discover different ways to market themselves, whether it's like busking somewhere, and you've got the classic, hey, like I'm the girl who like survives off of music off the street, and I'm this girl who is
classically
runs away from home to like want to pursue music even though my parents don't want. They have very from a musician point of view, a very like understandable and like classic sort of archetypes in that, and that's why I love them. I love them a lot. But then they got into the American Idol section of the show, and I felt like we just got so lost in it. And there's also kind of, I don't want to go too far into the story.
I'm surprised like that. So was it just the American? Because like the American Idol part, I don't think was as big, right? Like, because it was it was a good chunk of season 1, I guess. But I feel like it wasn't bad, and I feel like you would have liked Peter, or the green haired dude.
Yeah, like
catchy
he
music.
Was fine.
I mean, I know not everybody's Ertegun, but like,
Ertegun was
what's my name?
One of the greatest lampoon of like big EDM producers. Like that was very funny. No, it was just like, for me, the show sort of waffled about kind of this main thing that they were trying to answer, and like they set up the rivalry with like this girl who like came up through the pop music system, and like
she's like the Angela, like her name's Angela, and like she's like super produced,
as you would expect,
right? Like very produced musically. So,
and I guess like I felt like I was missing. So I loved the initial couple of episodes, but I just felt like towards the end, they sort of got a little too caught up in these sort of side stories that didn't particularly make me want to keep watching it. Like I didn't really enjoy, and I guess I don't want to spoil it for people who, like I want to give this, a show a chance to those people. And like, don't get me wrong, I think there are some really great things about it, but personally, they did lose me a little bit. in towards like the American Idol arc of that show. So
I could see how like maybe like the idea of like the contest and whatnot and having them there. It's the only way you could tie all the musical genres together though into one anime, right? That's how you do it, and that's how you plant the multiple different characters and like the different backgrounds and also like the different, once again, genres. And that felt like that idol, that whole American Idol segment was to plant the seed so you can move and like see all parts of the world of music and the industry of music and what it's like in space. So that's why I think I was okay with it, right? Like you saw so many different backgrounds of musicians and types of artists and performers. So I was definitely on board with that. It didn't bother me. And like the one thing that I thought was really cool about the show was you also got to see everything you know about music, right? They took like everything that is perceived as like, common knowledge about music. They took that and they put it in space. So you have your space American Idol, you have your space Coachella, you have all these things. and it's really cool seeing what is essentially just a bunch of like a band trying to make it big in space in a time where it kind of almost feels relevant now to me, in that it feels like basic rock music and just like simple stuff like that kind of been pushed off. And everything's a lot more like electronic and like synthesized and really produced. Like with 19 producers, like if you go look at Maroon 5's Moves Like Jagger song and you would think for how simple that song is, like instrumentally, and why are there like 24 producers on this song? and so it was kind of cool for me to see that side of the music industry put up in like an anime like lens, right? So I think that's why I really appreciated this anime a little, maybe like a lot more than the normal person. So it was just really cool to see that part of it.
Yeah, I think this show for me is a lot like Deca-Dence, where I think it's a story that we've kind of heard before, and it does it. Like, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with Carol and Tuesday, not by any means. Like, I liked it, but it was just like, I just felt like it was a little by the numbers sometimes, where it was like, okay, yeah, you got that the manager who's like that guy that you meet at the bar who goes, "You're gonna go far, kid," and then you have the producer who is just like super wacky looking, and he's just like super snobby about everything. So like it just felt like a little bit paint by numbers. Oh, like you got the crazy fangirl, whatever, and like
there were tons of
like
musical tropes. Right, like when you think of music movies, music anime, stuff like that. Yeah, like they're all there. Like I agree, they're all there.
But that's it. If there's a good reason to watch this, regardless of what you think of the story, it's that the music and animation is top notch. Top notch. The music is amazing, and like the main song that they sing, ooh, chills.
Beautiful.
Every time.
The harmonies are beautiful.
Yeah. So, love the music in that show.
All right, so let's see. What is your number one?
My number one, which I totally didn't stretch the rules for, is A Place Further Than the Universe, which is rated a whopping 8.56, but its popularity is 404.
Dude, I had a dig, man.
Totally not a stretch of the rules. And I do think it's underrated because I think it's better than an 8.56. Okay. So
okay. All right. Sure.
It's outside the popularity. So clearly not enough people have watched it. This
why do you think that is though?
I think it's mainly because the exterior of the show just looks like another cute girls does cute things type of show. I think the exterior makes it look like there's no heart. It's just going to be, just girls trying to have fun. Girls just want to have fun. Like that's it. And then you go, okay, well, what's the next thing? But the thing that truly sets the show apart is that it perfectly encompasses, I think, a lot of the sort of anxieties and fears that you have when you're in high school about like what it means to grow up and to find that excitement that in your life that like people have been talking about in movies and things that you read, and it was something that like I really vibed with because I remember when I was 10 years old, and by the time you're 10, it felt like all my dreams of being an anime hero or whatever was over. It was like, I didn't get a Hogwarts letter. I didn't get an owl. I didn't get isekai'd into Digimon. Yeah, I didn't go on an adventure with Pokemon. And so, like, I think the thing that I really vibed with was the centerpiece of the show is kind of finding that adventure that you've always wanted to go on, and these girls do that, and they find the courage to go and do it. And one is the show just looks great. It's got I don't know, it kind of, the animation style actually does kind of remind me of Pokemon now that I think about it. They're like, everyone's very shiny looking for some reason, but it's like everyone's rubbed their hair with Vaseline or something.
You like my forehead?
I thought the show was fantastic, and I think towards the end, like I was moved almost to tears. I'm not sure if I cried during this one, but I know a lot of people did, and it's just got a lot of heart to it. I think it's great. Again, only 13 episodes long, and I don't know what to say. And this show is pretty recent. Winter 2018 looks like is when it came out, and
sounds about right. A few years ago. 3-4 years ago, I don't remember. Yeah, so. Like this. Okay. So this is one that I didn't watch from that season because I remember I forgot what else it was.
Underwatched. See, underappreciated. My rule bending here was real and worked out.
And I totally get what you're because I kind of wrote it off as, okay, this looks like just something that is going to be good filler for the season, so I'll watch it later. Right. And I just focused on whatever else. So I got to get on that. And this is one of the ones where it's obviously rated high for a reason. And now I just got to get back and sit down and watch it. And it's only 13 episodes. So that sounds really promising. So I think this episode has definitely reminded me of some of the gems, though, that have overall, that have just kind of been overlooked. Right. I think there's a good amount of stuff here. And maybe you can skip out on G Gundam, but if you're into G Gundam, if you're into the Gundam series at all, at the franchise, I would still say that's an enjoyable one. It's just as I said, it's the J.J. Abrams Star Trek of the entire franchise, right? So if you're not into that kind of stuff, then just skip over it. But if you're into sweet battles like mech battles, this is the show. It has really cool mech battles, and so would you say that? Of these shows, they are very underrated, right? But which one of these, do you think really, 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 really deserves another shot? It being re-released, a whole media push. I know that we have I think Carol and Tuesday is number one for me, and so what I mean by that is I think it'd be really cool to see more promo work go into some of these shows, because I feel the ones that are on Netflix, you're right, maybe because they're on this exclusive platform, the marketing I felt could have been done better, just how the one that you had just mentioned, right? That one, the poster of it doesn't look interesting, right? It doesn't pull me in immediately. It just kind of looks like normal anime poster. There's nothing about it that really pulls me in, right? And so how would you fix this and make it so that it could entertain the masses and pull more people in?
Well, I want to throw hands with Netflix all the time because I think the way they handle anime is dumb. And so whoever's in charge of Netflix, I want a boxing match, Mayweather versus Paul. Instead, it'll be Xell versus the guy on Netflix, Smith Jones guy.
But no holding punches.
No holding punches. I'm gonna beat the crap out of you because I think that the reason why Netflix shows tend to not get as much hype, recently there was a show called Yasuke that was apparently pretty cool. I don't know. I literally have no idea because I've never saw anything about it. And the reason being is that the way anime does things, while it might not be the best for people who, want to binge everything all at once, what it is good for is that it builds hype. When people have to have some time in between episodes to talk about things and discuss things, you build hype. And you see that with shows like Game of Thrones. Imagine Game of Thrones if it all came out at once. It'd be so different. One of the big things with Game of Thrones was just that, when a big episode happens, everybody and their mom is talking about it. When Red Wedding happened, like there's a reason why I think this works, even if it might upset people that you can't just binge watch it all. The reason why it works is because it builds hype and discussion around the thing. And when Netflix dumps it all like that, I mean, I have a whole soapbox on why I think Netflix is dumb, but you know, I think Netflix should rethink how they do that in general. In terms of like the shows that I think really deserve it, you know, like my top, honestly, all 5 of the shows that I picked, I think are more than watchable. And I think there are going to be people who watch it and go like, oh, I really like the show. Like it would not surprise me if people really loved any of these shows. And, you know, I think Cute Girls Do Cute Things is always going to be one of those types of shows that like, people are always going to initially scoff at, and it'll always take some time and coaxing for people to be like, oh yeah, maybe I should watch this. You know, like I remember watching K-On! Being like, what am I doing here? Why am I watching?
So K-On's gas, dude, from the get-go.
But the thing is, like, you keep watching it and you're like, yeah, this is gas. This is really good. And there are like other shows that like the exterior looks kind of lame and dumb or whatever. Like, I don't know, Comic Girls was a show that I really enjoyed, even though like it seems kind of dumb. But so that one's like, I think something that is bound to happen. A Day Before Us is kind of different because I think it's like a very low profile. It feels like a student's like group project or something. And if anything, I thought the way they advertise it on YouTube was really cool because people would just kind of like discover it, and I realized that, oh, there's actually quite a few people who've seen this and really like it. And so if anything, I want to see them pop off even harder, and maybe the next thing they make, you know, they can be like, we were the makers of A Day Before Us, you know, like that sort of thing. And maybe that builds into something cooler. And you know, yeah, I don't know, I guess a lot of the shows that I chose, when I think of it from a marketing point of view, you don't get the immediate hook of like why it could be cool. Like the thing with shows like battle shonens is like you can always right off the bat tell people why it's cool because you'll see a fight scene, you know, you see a fight scene and you're going to be like, wow, that's really cool. But like It Invaded, I think the main, I remember watching the trailer and being like, I have no idea what I'm watching here. And like the poster of it too is just kind of bland and like you don't really know what's kind of happening, and so yeah, I don't know. I think for a lot of these originals, like they kind of have to be. I guess I think it just goes for all anime is that like if they're not like one of the best, it feels like a lot of times they get overshafted by just like big series that have big manga attached to it, you know?
Yeah,
and I think like that's just how it is. And for originals to really pop off, they really have to like, they sort of have to take over that season entirely, which I think, you know,
well, like Vivi
though
is a good example of doing it right though, right? Because I would say that like, you know, tie it all back, like why we even wanted to do all this, because like Vivi is amazing. And I think it dominated the season, right? Like for me, it's my pick of the season.
Yeah, and like, even then, Vivi, despite everybody I know who's watched it being like, yeah, the show is like a 10 out of 10 material show, it still gets overshadowed on like sites like Reddit by shows like 86, which is like mind blowing to me. But I guess it's just harder when you're doing originals because one of the nice things about having manga readers and light novel readers is that they're the ones hyping things up, you know, the eternal hype man. So
I think that kind of like that's the scary thing with originals, right? Like you don't have the built-in fan base to like push your show out there to get word of mouth, right? It's more of the people like us who watch literally every single show that we can, or maybe the people that kind of wander in and just like, oh well, I'll just watch this. So it is a little unfortunate, but at the same time, this shows you that like there are tons of gems that don't stand out, and I always like finding like the Vivies of the season, right? And this season has actually a few, right? Between this and like Shadow's House is just getting better and better. So like there's so many, and I feel like the fact that Great Pretender, Carol and Tuesday, and all of the Netflix animes, they're just not talked about more because they're gated behind the Netflix subscription price, right? So
yeah,
I
Netflix jail.
I feel like that is, I don't mind the whole like release pattern like you had mentioned, like dumping all the episodes. Although I do agree that like having them released week by week does build more hype and stuff like that. I'm just like surprised. I think what it is, a lot of like anime watchers, the reason why they would rather go to something that has got its manga is because I feel a majority of people that I ask that watch anime, that like anime, they don't want to take a chance when there's, especially as the seasons get more stacked, right, with more and more animes. You know, like, are you going to go to the one that you don't know about? It could suck. Or, hey, how about this one? This one has a manga. It's serialized. And, like, I've heard of it before, right? So I'll probably watch that one. And with this and that kind of mentality, though, that's where, like, the Vivies and Shadow's houses kind of go unnoticed. And then 10 years down the line, it's like, you know, wait, hold on, this existed? So I think that's kind of like the big thing with how, like, how these animes become underrated and underappreciated.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I think, like most things, it's entertainment is a very top-heavy sort of industry, and so I think it's very easy for really good shows to just kind of sneak by sometimes. And I think that's why shows like us are, I think, worthwhile doing, because I think, you know, I think of those people who are like, man, I got no anime to watch. And I'm like, you're crazy. Unless you're like literally watching anime all the time, 24/7, there's something out there for people. And like, maybe they're not the best thing ever, but there's definitely anime still worth watching out there. And I think sometimes it just takes, people like me and Crim to go and discover those things, kind of like how Crim discovers how all gacha games suck. You know, it's very similar.
I do it for the people, clearly for the people, and not for any selfish reasons other than like, please let it like, but like, right, like, because the big thing about this is bands, right? Like, music is the best way to like have me put this. I mean, surprise, the music guy wants to put music, but there are tons of bands that we listen to. Not all of them are our favorite band, but we still love them, right? Like, to a certain level. And I think there's a lot of anime out there, just like Xell had mentioned. So I think you should definitely take the shot on some of the animes that you like the Vivies and the Shadows houses and stuff like that. And because, you know, just because, you know, My Chemical Romance in this case, let's just say that they're my favorite band, doesn't mean that I don't like other bands. There's still tons of good stuff out there. So I hope, you know, like that, like our listeners, by now, if you're listening, this shows that you're pretty devoted to anime. So you're probably out there and also digging for yourself too, right? To find that gem. So keep doing that good work. Keep playing actually don't keep playing the gacha games. Those games keep getting me. And but yeah, like just keep doing that. I think as we close up the episode, I think that's the best thing. You know, I hope that, you know, all of our listeners at home, keep trying out new animes, keep giving them a shot. Like, sometimes even manga readers, for the listeners now that also read manga. I just went in to the bookstore and I just picked up a random manga that looked cool. This has gone wrong a few times, but like, I'm going to be very transparent. I've gotten some very, very different manga than what I was ready for. But like, I found this, right? And it's like Die Dark. And it's done by Hayashida, and they've done a few like other Netflix anime and stuff like that. And you know, like, I feel really happy that they did that. So just keep trying out new things. Manga readers too, go out there, just buy random stuff.
I would be ecstatic if somebody who was listening went in and watched one of the ones that we talked about and gave us their thoughts. So if you guys end up watching any of these things, like, please let us know what you thought. You know, like, and I would love to know what you guys think, and if we really hit the nail on, you know, were these underrated? Were these ones that I think like could have been like bigger in like a different season or in a different way? So yeah, I'd be really curious.
So yeah,
maybe not G Gundam.
Yeah, G Gundam,
Tequila Gundam,
Tequila Gundam, man. Like, that's, you know what? Don, Tequila Gundam, Tequila Gundam. Can that be in a thumbnail? You know what? Whatever. Like, that's
right next to Korean barbecue Gundam.
Yeah, like, honestly, the American Gundam, I think, was like almost like a flag, right? Like it's
the maple syrup Gundam from Canada.
With a maple cannon.
Oh my god,
Dude,
shoots
like,
molasses.
the whole G Gundam series is almost worth a watch on its own, just to see how poorly it aged and how politically incorrect an anime can be. It's just like, oh my god, it's bad. But yeah, like, so thank you so much for listening, watching, however you're choosing to enjoy this, and thank you for joining us for our 12th episode. And we cannot even begin to tell you how excited we are for a few episodes, maybe some coming in the future, very near future. So keep listening, keep spreading the word, keep telling your dog, your grandma, whoever, just keep spreading the word. And once again, thanks for supporting this channel. Xell and I see all the support out there, and it means the world to us. So thank you. Other than that, take it away, Xell. Close the show.
Yeah, I guess as Crim said, thank you guys so much for watching and supporting us. Please keep liking our posts, commenting on the YouTube videos, downloading the podcast wherever. We really appreciate it. And, if you guys could, please spread the word, to anywhere that people are looking to, consume anime content. It helps us a ton, and we really want to get our name out there. I feel like there aren't that many anime podcasts, and I feel like I think we do a pretty good job here. So
yeah,
please share the word, and just thank you guys so much for supporting us. So we'll see you guys next week. Bye. Crim's thinking about the thing that's coming up, but anyways, have a good night, everybody. Peace out.